I think the reality is when there is a failure, I think the first thing to do is not to say, let's overcome it. That's not real, right? The reality is that we have to first grieve lah. That there's a process of grieving that happens, right? And people who don't grieve generally are not able to reattach. Okay, so when you have a failure, just go through the grieving process, whether it's denial and anger and all that stuff. You just go through it, and you must do that, because if the cold-hearted people are, it's a failure, what's the big deal? Let's move on, right? The problem is that you're storing it there, and it weighs you down at some point in time. Because what you need to see in the grieving cycle, right? It's kind of like goes downwards and then it goes upwards, right? So it starts with denial, and then it goes to anger and bargaining and stress, and then finally goes to acceptance, right? And when it comes to acceptance, then you get to go up the curve, right? You need to then start to forgive, and say, okay, I forgive, because sometimes you will start to say blame, right? Oh, it's because of my stupid employees, or because of this, or because of that. I mean, you get angry. So you need to forgive. And then the final part of the grieving process is gratitude. Yeah. You need to be grateful. Okay. Wow, that experience, when how are you grateful? The only way you're grateful is when you're reflective. When you start looking at the experience and saying, actually, what can I take out of it? What benefit did I derive from it? And I learned this actually because one of my bosses, when I was in GE, I made a mistake. I invested, I was in charge of putting together a system, and I've got the best system in the world, a $25 million system that is end-to-end, it's MRO and billing and complete system that I implemented. But after implementing it, nobody used it, right? Because I didn't understand, and it was not because of the system, it's just because you didn't do the change management right, and you didn't get acceptance. And no, it was actually a really good product, and it would have worked, right? It's just that people refuse to change because they say Excel is easier. It's not easier. It's much harder. But that's how it was, right? And because of the acceptance. Anyway, when I thought I was gonna get fired, right? And I'm like, okay, that's it, because I just burned 25 million. They said, look, this was my boss is like, this is a $25 million lesson for you. Of course, I'm not going to fire you because I paid $25 million tuition. You better learn from this and make sure you make sure from now on you figure out a way to get me back 25 plus more, right? And I learned that, hey, you know what? I'm supposed to learn from this. And he told me, spend 3 days and lock yourself in a room and figure out what lessons you learned. Then come and see me. If you can't, then you're fired, right? Okay, when I came out of the whole process, I was so grateful for the experience. Before that, I was so ungrateful because I was blaming everybody, the other people and these guys who refused to accept the system and so on. And so that's the phase one, right? The phase one is you have to grieve, and the grieving ends with gratitude, and it comes with a reflection. Now, after that, you then start to look and say, okay, this has put me in this situation. I cannot change the past, but I can change the future, right? And so what can I do that can allow me to get back to track? Because what happens is you may have a goal and say, okay, I want to get to a certain point, like I want to get up here, but you may be down here, right? How do I get from this point to that point? And the only way to get from one point to another is to figure out a new track, because you may have been moved, right? And then you start to figure out, okay, how do I execute this plan? And I think if we can have the clarity of doing that, right, we can get out of a rut. I think the first question you have to ask yourself is, why are you starting this company? Are you starting it to make money, or are you starting it to solve a problem, or are you starting it to make a difference, or are you starting it to solve a personal thing that you want to see corrected in this world? It could be for many reasons, right? Now, if you say I'm starting it because I think I can make more money, then I would hold off on that, because you see, being an entrepreneur, right, the money comes right at the tail end. And even you look at Richard Branson, I'm reading about him today, right? The guy is like trying to sell off Nectar Island, right, where he's like, he is his home, right? He has to sell it off to salvage Virgin, and Virgin Australia just went bust today, right? And it never ends on, so like, you can become a billionaire, but you can lose it all tomorrow, right? But for him, right, I don't think it's about the money, I think it's about the opportunity to put a dent in the universe, just like Steve Jobs and all these guys, right? To really transform society, to create a legacy for himself, maybe, and maybe that's the fame piece. Maybe to stand out and make sure that his life is counted for. So I think if the answer is money, I would say, there is much easier ways to make money. And really, you can work for somebody and on the side sell nasi lemak and stuff. You still can get side income. You can moonlight. You can do. I mean, there's millions of ways to make money, right? But when you start saying I want to be an entrepreneur, you are very clear that there is something I want to solve. There is a deep-seated desire inside me to do something that nobody else is doing, and nobody else wants to solve, or nobody else is attempting to solve, and I want to do that. And so when I started, right, for me it was really, I didn't start Leaderonomics as a company to make money. I started it as an NGO, right? We started it to help kids and we started it with youths, right? And we were giving free youth, leadership stuff for the youths, right? And we started with clubs and all these other things that we started. But when we started to grow and scale, we say, hey, there's an opportunity to do both, right? We can actually fund our community work by doing work at the corporate side, right? And so it became a system in itself. I think one of the first most important piece that you need to have is clarity lah. And when I say this is one of the hardest things to do, and this is what I did actually the last couple of weeks, is tell myself I needed first personal clarity of where I'm going to take this business. Because once you have that personal clarity, and then you are able to then enable the organization to have that same sort of clarity. When you don't have that clarity, you're not able to enable, because the next thing, the second part is focus, right? So once you have that clarity, you enable the organization to focus on that clarity, right? So you say, okay, I'm clear, this is what we need to do, and this is the game plan. And then you enable that, and you enable your employees to only focus on that. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we have a lot of ideas. And then when we tell the ideas, the employees don't understand it, or they think they understand, and then the execution comes all over. And then we have this picture in mind, but the clarity is not cascaded down in a very clear, crystallized manner. And so what happened is execution becomes complex, and then you get frustrated and angry, and why are they not doing this? Why can't they think like me, and so on? And I think that problem is not the employees' problem, it's actually our problem, right? We need to have first personal clarity, be able to crystallize it and say, and then go and test it out.